You may have heard of the man that was asked whether he owned a Webster's dictionary. He said, "I'm waiting for the video edition." There are many people that prefer to see things on a screen to reading a book. But for those that prefer books, I have to say that most of what I'm saying in this series of videos is found in a book that I wrote some years ago called The Kaleidoscope of Diamonds. So for those who are bookworms, this book, Kaleidoscope of Diamonds, is available through Good News Unlimited in Australia. Our theme in this half hour is the cross seen under a kaleidoscope as a tree, as an altar, as a throne, as a judgment seat, as a mercy seat, etc. First of all, it's a tree. It says in Acts 5:30 that him wicked hands took and nailed to a tree. 1 Peter 2 and verse 24 says that Christ bore our sins to the tree. We've compared two gardens, the garden at the beginning of the world and the garden at the legal end of the world at the cross in Gethsemane. We ought to compare the trees. Concerning the tree of knowledge and the tree of life in the Old Testament, it says they were in the midst of Eden. And when you read John's Gospel, chapter 19 and verse 18, it speaks about Christ being crucified in the midst. There they crucified him, with him two others, one on either side, and Jesus in the midst. So John 19 and verse 18 puts the new tree of life in the midst. The cross is the tree of life, and the cross is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. When the Eden tree was looked at by Eve, the record says it was pleasant to the eyes, good to the taste, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. The cross to the sinner is pleasant to the eyes, and it's good for food. He said, "Except you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you, and it will make us wise unto salvation." So the two trees in Eden, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil, portray the cross of Christ. That's why we have the repetition of in the midst. That's why it's called a tree. If you find the cross, you found paradise. If you found the cross, it'll make you wise unto salvation. Concerning the first tree, the tree of knowledge, man was forbidden to eat of it. Concerning this tree of knowledge, man's commanded to eat of it. The devil said about the first one, "Take, eat." Jesus on the eve of the second one says, "Take, eat. This is my body. This is my blood." A thief, by disobeying, was turned out of paradise, with reference to the first tree. A thief is turned into paradise in connection with the next tree. So that's the first thing we should observe. Trees provide food and shelter. They're places of rest and beauty. Trees are found not only in Eden, but in Genesis 18 we have the next reference to a tree. Please look at it. We considered the first 7 references to blood. Now we should look at the references to trees. And verse 4, "Let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree." The first time we read the tree in Eden, it becomes the place of the curse. But after becoming the place of the curse, we find it a place of rest. Rest yourselves under the tree. And those who find that Christ became a curse for us on the tree, they find rest. "Come unto me, and I will give you rest." Christ is the true Noah. Noah means rest. Noah built an ark to the saving of his house. Christ built the plan of salvation to save his house. Whose house are we? We're his house. So here's the second reference to a tree. It's a place of rest. The cross becomes that to us. Turn now, if you would, to the next place Exodus 15. Here's the next place where we have reference to a tree or a part thereof. Notice in Exodus 15 and verse 22. Then Moses led Israel onward from the Red Sea, and they went into the wilderness of Shur. They went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. When they came to Marah, they couldn't drink the water of Marah. It was bitter. Therefore it was named Marah, which means bitterness. The people murmured against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" And he cried to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, and he threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. Now a tree becomes a transforming agent. First, the tree is the place of the curse, Genesis 3. Then it's the place of rest, Genesis 18. But now in Exodus 15, it's a place that transforms, a place of transformation, an agency of change. Can I remind you that in the main gospel of the four, all the miracles are about transformation. Water is transformed into wine. Impotence into movement. Sickness into health. Danger into security. Death into life. Blindness into sight. All 7 miracles in John's Gospel are miracles of transformation. And this third reference to a tree in the Bible reminds us the cross is not only the place of the curse, it's not only the place where we find rest from guilt. You know, one wise man in the Reformation said, if I didn't know the gospel, my conscience would torment me 1,000 times a day. Some think he's exaggerating. I think he was underestimating. I remember once I disturbed the conference president by saying we sin 1,000,000 times a day. Now, of course, a Christian does not sin deliberately. But if the law requires that every thought be as perfect as Adam before the fall, and if we have millions of thoughts in a day, how many of us would claim that we think as perfectly as Christ, or the first Adam before his sin? And anything that's imperfect is sinful. Anything that falls short of the absolute is sin. We do indeed fall short 1,000,000 times a day. So the cross is a place of rest. If we didn't have the cross, our consciences would torment us. Thirdly, we all need changing. And it's the cross that changes us. You know, the best way to get darkness out of a room is not with a broom. You switch the light on. And the best way to get air out of a bottle is not by trying to suck it out. It's by filling it with water. And the way God gets rid of sin of our life is by the expulsive power of a new love. When we find we are loved, we love. You know, that's how most of us got married. One party or the other persuaded the other they were loved. When you're loved, you walk on air. You find someone that doesn't criticize you. You're of value. You have worth. It's a new life. You can't help but love someone that loves you. And there's the genius of the gospel. God says through the cross, I love you just as you are. He won't leave us just as we are. He sets about transforming us. So the third place is transformation. Let's look at one more. 2 Kings chapter 6. Now the sons of the prophets said to Elisha, see, the place where we dwell under your charge is too small for us. Let us go to the Jordan, let us make a place for us to dwell there. He answered, go. One of them said, be pleased to go with your servant, and he answered, I'll go. So he went with them. And when they came to the Jordan, they cut down trees. But as one was felling a log, his axe head fell into the water, and he cried out, alas, my master, it was borrowed. The man of God said, where? Where did it fall? And he showed him the place, and he cut off a stick, a part of a tree. He cut it off. Didn't pick it up. He cut it off. Remember about Messiah the Prince? He'll be cut off. And he threw it in, and he made the iron float, and he said, take it up. My friends, long, long ago, the angel said to God, Lord, time you made another world. He said, all right, let's go down and make another world. And he made a man and a woman. He said, I'm going to lend you this world. Remember, it's borrowed property. But Adam and Eve took that borrowed world and they threw it into the river of death.